Welcome to another Erik Wait whiskey study, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the San Diego Distillery Peated Whisky. San Diego is kind of my second hometown. I grew up in Walnut Creek, California, up in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I went through Marine Corps boot camp in San Diego, right next door to the San Diego airport, and then I was stationed at Camp Pendleton. So I was in San Diego from, let's see, 86 through 89 when I got out of the Marine Corps. And then I went back to the Bay Area, went to college, then went back to San Diego to get a master's degree, and I lived there from 96 to 2000. So, you know, my early and mid-adult years were spent in San Diego, so it has sort of a special place in my heart. Well, Bill, the Whiskey Dick, or Whiskey Dictionary, he occasionally travels from the Boston, Massachusetts area to San Diego on business. And so I said, hey, next time you're out here in California or down in San Diego, I'll come down and meet you. So we got together, had absolutely fantastic time. We did like a 2.5 hour live stream, did a Lefroy 10. I'll put a link to that video at the end of this. And then the next day he flew back home and I hung out in San Diego for a weekend. My grandparents are buried in San Diego as well. My grandfather was a World War II naval officer, so he's buried at Fort Rosecrans down there along with my grandmother. And so I also wanted to visit a distillery, so I went to the San Diego Distillery. Really interesting place. It's in a business park, so you're not really expecting much when you go there. You know, from the outside, it just looks like a business park, but when you get inside, they've kind of decorated really, really nice. It's sort of a, you know, as a speakeasy. It's got a real cool atmosphere. So if you're ever in San Diego, you gotta check out the San Diego Distillery. Also, another really awesome place. I will definitely be going there again, probably even meet up with Bill again, is the Whiskey House in San Diego on, I think it's on 3rd Avenue or 3rd Street. They have the world's largest whiskey selection for a whiskey bar, and the menu is just absolutely insane. Just about any whiskey you can think of, they have there by the glass. So it's a great opportunity to try a whiskey that you might not want to spend the money on, splurge the money on buying a full bottle, but maybe spend $100 on buying something extremely rare, hard to find. Alrighty, so before I get into this whiskey, here are my notes. San Diego Distillery Peated Single Malt. Made from 100% peated barley, imported from Scotland. It is aged in barrel sizes of 5 gallon, 10 gallon, and 53 gallon used oak. It is bottled at cask strength and is only from the distillery. It is bottled at 57% alcohol by volume or 115 proof. And it's available only in 375 milliliter bottles and sells for around $43 in the US. So the whiskey comes in a glass bottle with a glass top, which can be a little bit challenging getting off there. It has funny little grooves in it. So after you peel the plastic, I found using a butter knife to wedge in between the glass top and the glass bottle kind of helped me get it out of there. Now, as I said in the notes, this is from the distillery only. However, they do distribute some of their other whiskeys, particularly this bourbon. This is a San Diego Distillery bourbon, which I was going to review during the recent bourbon month in March 2019, but I ran out of time. So I will get to this at another time. And this is available in your local large unnamed wine and spirit and other stuff store. Don't want to be accused of advertising. So anyway, but you can get those there. Go for around $32. Alrighty, so the peat is from Scotland, particularly from Islay. So if you're smelling it blind, it smells like an Islay peat. Where in Islay? So if you're not familiar with Islay or the peated whiskies of Islay, in the southern end you have Bowmore, Lagavulin, Laphroaig, and Ardbeg. North you have Bruichladdich, Kilchoman, Killala, and Bunnahabhain. While the northern distilleries definitely do some peated whiskeys, say like Octomore from Bruichladdich, this smells much more like a southern Islay peat. Now remember, this is a San Diego whiskey, but it's made from peated barley coming from Islay. So on the nose, get the big, huge, just a nose full of smoke. But it doesn't seem to have the briny notes that you would have from an Islay whiskey. Because even though San Diego has a beach, the distillery isn't on the beach. Their warehouse isn't on the beach. The distillery is actually fairly inland. Then I do get some fruit notes, some citrus, maybe a little bit of green apple, maybe a little bit of pear. So thus far on the nose, if I was doing this blind, what is this most like? I would say it's like a southern Islay peat, not Bowmore, not Lagavulin. It's somewhere between an Ardbeg and a Laphroaig. Get a little bit of black pepper, some vanilla, caramels, chocolate, definitely a lot of dark chocolate, maybe a little bit of black olive. All right, on the palate. As you can see, I've got it down below the shoulder. So I've had a couple glasses out of this already. I tasted this at the distillery and really, really liked it. In fact, I brought 2 bottles home. It's a really rich whiskey. The peat is just really powerful. It's just really a smack in the face. It's got really nice dark chocolate, a little bit of sweetness to it. Caramels, almost like a little bit of a tobacco note to it. Some little bit of black pepper, vanilla. And what lingers is a peat and chocolate character to it. I really, really like this, and I'm liking it more now than when I first opened it. When I first opened it, I was getting a lot of peat and peat on peat, smoke on smoke on smoke. Now the fruit, and particularly the chocolate notes, are just really, really coming out. I really, really like it. Now the finishes I'm talking now, I'm actually getting a chocolate mint, like a York's peppermint patty. And a little sort of an evergreen note as well. I really, really, really like this. Now, definitely, I would say I would put my money on this is closest to an Ardbeg. Now, I'm an Ardbeg fan. I have a pretty good Ardbeg collection here. Which Ardbeg would I say this is like? Well, it has a lot more oomph, a lot more power because it has a higher ABV, which gets it closer to a Coivrecken. But it doesn't have the layers of complexity of a Coivrecken. It has, I would say, the flavor profile and complexity of an Ardbeg 10, but it has a lot more oomph. Ardbeg 10 is at 46% alcohol by volume, and this one's at 57% alcohol by volume. So if you could almost get like a cask strength version of an Ardbeg 10, that's what this would be. And I really, really like this. What am I going to give it in terms of points? I'm going to give it a solid, like 91, 92 points. It's really, 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 really good. Now, what I'm curious about is how would this compare to an Ardbeg 10? Well, let me go grab a bottle and we'll check it out. All right, so I have the Ardbeg 10 here. The Ardbeg 10 In terms of quality price ratio is my favorite Ardbeg. I don't think there's another Scotch whiskey period that can compete with Ardbeg 10 in terms of quality price ratio. Typically $46 to $50 per bottle. Once in a blue moon, I'll see one for as little as like $42. And it has maintained that price level. So just right off the bat, the first thing I notice is color-wise, the Ardbeg 10 is a lot lighter. If you can see that, than the San Diego Distillery. San Diego's Distillery is on my right. Actually, San Diego Distillery is smokier than the Ardbeg 10. The smoke on the Ardbeg 10 is a lot more integrated. In case you're wondering, I've got this right to about here, so it's been open a little while. This is probably in the last, this is probably like my fourth bottle of the Ardbeg 10 since April 2013. Well, since April 2016. I remember when I got started. So I got into whiskeys in April 2016. Been to the distillery on Isla's as well as 6 of the others there. This also has more of the sea breeze character to it. It's got a little bit of more of that saltiness. It has more fruit, more citrus, but it definitely has the peat, which makes me think now I'm sort of likening the San Diego Distillery Peated a little bit more towards the Perpetuum. I reviewed the Perpetuum a while back during Isla month. The Perpetuum, actually in a very similar fashion, on the nose, it maintained a lot of peat, and I really had to get it down below the shoulder to get anything else out of the Perpetuum. Initially, the Perpetuum was sort of a disappointment because it seemed out of balance, and the peat just seemed to be so domineering. But eventually, as it got past the shoulder, it really opened up really, really nice. I now think the Perpetuum is a hidden gem, one that you can still get out there, and the prices range fairly low because the demand hasn't been really high. The strength level is definitely huge different. There really isn't any comparison between the Ardbeg 10 and the San Diego Distillery. So the next one I want to do in a comparison, let's go to the Perpetuum. So if you're not familiar with the Ardbeg Perpetuum, this was a celebration of the 200th anniversary of the founding of Ardbeg Distillery. So this is from 2015 because Ardbeg started in 1815. This is bottled at 47.4% alcohol by volume. At the bottom it says, here's to the next 200 years, a never-ending, rich and enticing combination of classic Ardbeg notes and incredibly creamy flavors. I'll put a link to my review of this whiskey at the end of this video if you're interested in hearing about this one. And if you search around the interwebs, it's still somewhat readily available at your fine whiskey shops. Price-wise, if I recall correctly, I don't remember, I'll put it up here or over here. But it's still, this is a bottle, it's a 200th anniversary, it's a special bottling for Ardbeg, and yet the price hasn't gone absolutely bonkers on this one. Yep, definitely. Yep. So, the peat is much more integrated on the Perpetuum than the San Diego, but that's because it has been open for a while, and I've got it down to about right there where my finger is. So it's a lot more integrated, and yet the intensity of the smoke and the peat is very similar. I can almost project that, given a little bit more time, that the one from San Diego Distillery, it being open, would become more and more like the Perpetuum. Definitely the smoke and the low smoke and the peat is there, and it's on par with San Diego Distillery. But both the Ardbeg 10 and the Perpetuum, there is an Ardbegness to the whiskey that can't be duplicated off of Islay. And I think and this comes down to cask choice, I think. The maturation of the cask, the choices that they make in cask, whether it's the bourbon cask that they're using, but also just the environment that it's in. San Diego is a lot warmer than Islay, and so it's probably going to have a faster interaction with the whiskeys, which is a benefit for San Diego because they can have a faster turnaround. But there's a slow maturation character to the distillery, to Ardbeg Distillery. It has a certain maturity about the spirit. Now, both of these are really, really delicious, but more and more, the San Diego Distillery Peated Whiskey is leaning to being a little bit more Laphroaig-like. So the last thing we want to do, let's try this up against the Laphroaig 10. All right, the Laphroaig 10. So the Laphroaig 10, I would say, is probably the classic example of not judging a whiskey based on its neck pour. It's just peat and smoke and ash and peat and smoke and ash from the neck pour. But once you get past, let's say right around where the label is at, you start opening up and getting more fruit notes and some nice peppermint patty notes, York's peppermint, chocolate peppermint patty notes. This bottle currently is, about two-thirds of the way through. So it's been open a while. It's been open a couple of years. And it's had plenty of time to breathe and for everything to become integrated. Now, in case you're wondering, I did drink some water in between bottles to sort of help a little bit freshen up my palate. Color-wise, you can see also, it also looks a lot more like the San Diego Distillery. In fact, they're near identical in color. San Diego is just a little bit darker than the Laphroaig 10. Yep, there we go. Yep. I would say there's still more of an oceanic influence on the Laphroaig. Slightly more medicinal notes, but it's still this very intense peat, chocolate, smoke, ash, with the underlying fruit, a little bit of a black pepper, a little brininess to it. And I would say that salty sea breeze, brininess character is sort of the one thing that the San Diego peat isn't getting. Other than that, it definitely seems like an Islay malt. Drink a little water. Nice. Well, you know what? Texturally, I've had a few. Give me a break. Texturally, the Laphroaig is smoother, creamier than the San Diego Distillery. But the San Diego Distillery is a much more intense and concentrated flavors. This is bottled at 43%, so it's a lower ABV. That might account for that. But there's just an intensity and concentration of flavor in the San Diego Distillery. Take a choice between the two. I'm actually going to go with San Diego. I like the San Diego Distillery over the Laphroaig. Ardbeg 10 versus San Diego Distillery. I'm probably going to lean towards the Ardbeg 10. Perpetuum versus San Diego Distillery. I'm probably going to go San Diego Distillery. I think this is a really, really, really fine peated whiskey with sort of a combination of the atmosphere and handling and style of San Diego, California, and yet with that nice peatiness and fruit character you're getting off of an Islay malt. Really, really, really nice. Alrighty, this has been a really neat exploration of this whiskey to see what you can do in California with some imported barley. If you're ever in San Diego, highly, 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 highly recommend checking out the Whiskey House. You're definitely going to want to go there and check out San Diego Distillery. A really, really, really cool place. And they kind of actually run late hours in terms of tasting, and they do cocktails there as well. And the host behind the bar was just a really, really neat guy. Alrighty, that's it for this review. If you subscribe to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you haven't yet subscribed and you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. Share with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and other social networking channels. And until next time, cheers. Hey, if you like my review, be sure to check out these other whiskey videos.